Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Talking to podcast. How are you doing? So today is May 27th, 2025. Now, that date is significant for a lot of reasons because of course one, it's Children's Day, so that means I don't get to do schoolwork. But then, not necessarily because that does not even, that laugh already tells you that's not true. You will do schoolwork, but yeah. But today makes it exactly 1 year on this journey. So about a year ago on the specific day, the first episode of the podcast was released. And this is such a full circle moment for me because I can't help it. Because now it's been 1 year since I started doing it, since I literally took a leap of faith and into doing something that I had never done before and I didn't know how to do. 1 whole year. 1 year, 21 episodes in, a lot of takes just to get each episode prepared, and God, it's going to have me in tears. So in this episode today, I want to say a special thank you to each and every one. In fact, I want to give I have done some kind of appreciation posts before. I think I did that in December when the year ended. But nah, this is my first year on this, so I want to give an appreciation post to every single person who helped me on the journey to this. It's been one hell of a ride. A lot of months of showing up, of not showing up, of deciding whether or not I'm going to do it, whether I'm not going to do it, and you just know extra stuff. But yeah, it's one hell of a ride, and if you leave me, I probably will do it again. In fact, not probably, I'm going to do it again. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is an episode special where I say a big thank you to everyone. Thank you for your listening, for each and everyone who has listened. You've been with me for last 1 year. That's such a huge feat for me. 1 year for something I didn't think I would do, and for something I didn't think I would be able to continue. But you've been here for an entire year. I feel like crying. Thank you. I remember in fact, that exact day, recording my first episode. I probably recorded my first episode by past 12 a.m. Woke up. I had postponed for months. In fact, so apparently I had started telling people I was going to do a podcast from February. And by May, I had not done anything. I had postponed. So it seemed like my friends at the time were on my neck because randomly everybody would ask me. My friends would ask me, Glory, your name would trouble the living daylight out of me. And Tosi would sometimes see me and ask, Joseph, where is this podcast? Joe, where is this podcast? And I kept telling them, I'm working on it. I'll take all the time in the world to get a logo prepared, to, design back and forth, check the name of the podcast. What did I want the caption to be? What style did I want? What was the first episode supposed to be? But I went back and forth. then in April, towards the end of April, I said I wanted an episode out in May. In May began, I left for like a week, came back and I said that episode was going to be released on Children's Day, May 27, because I knew as a core member, same thing. Tomato, whatever. So as a core member, I knew I wasn't going to work that day, so I would be able to work, record, edit, publish. And I woke up that morning, recorded the episode after almost 15 takes. 15 takes. Yes, it took as many takes, as much as that, if not even more, to eventually get that first episode ready. Because you have no clue. Kept missing my words, didn't like how I sounded, was talking too fast. I was, it was just scattered. And so kept deleting, starting again, deleting, starting again, deleting, starting again. Not something I would advise. Deleting and starting again. I was on the note for wanting some kind of perfection. Was positioning my mic differently. In fact, I positioned my mic, record for a few minutes, just so that I could see how it sounded. Then, only for me to just, eventually check and be like, nah, I don't like this mic position. Do it again, back and forth. Finally, had my clothes ready on how I wanted the episode to go. And after positioning and all, I eventually took the take that I wanted. Then we recorded an episode. Episode was on Introduce Yourself. No, Introduce Yourself was episode 2. I don't even remember what the first episode was actually titled. But I can tell you that it was about why is the first episode of a series always called the pilot episode? Yeah, I remember. Did that, edited for like an hour or two, finally got to publish, and the episode was published around 1:28 p.m. May 27, 2024. And as a full circle moment, this episode is going to be published at exactly the same time. That time means a lot to me. 1:28 p.m. was when I started the journey that had taken me 4 years to eventually begin. Why did I say 4 years? Because the idea for a podcast came in 2019-2020. So in 2019-2020, one day, I'd had this random days where I have these funny ideas. And I just felt like, you know what? Why don't we get into YouTube, content making, and all of this stuff? Now, there's only one reason why I cancelled the idea of doing YouTube. I'm not a camera person. In fact, I only started taking pictures of myself constantly last year. One of the many things that God broke when I went to Ibadan. So I didn't use to have pictures. I didn't take pictures of myself. I only started taking pictures of myself last year. So I didn't like being behind the camera, even till now. When I take pictures of myself, I don't like to sit. But now I'm way better. Because now for the last couple of weeks, at least for the last couple of weeks and some months, I have been consistent to taking pictures. I see it and I'm happy. So I didn't want the idea of making YouTube videos. So I didn't know what else to do. Then one day I'm at work and my cousin comes to visit me at work. And when she's leaving, she says, "What's up? Have you thought about the idea of making YouTube videos, creating your channel?" And I'm like, YouTube videos. Now, as at the time I got the idea, it wasn't specific. I just said, what if we go into media, videos, audio, and just stuff? So YouTube video was like the very first specific idea we would have. So I'm like, YouTube videos. I said, okay. I pondered about it for that day and a few other days. Videos, I'm like, I'm sitting. Then I was like, YouTube videos. That requires a lot of good camera, a good phone, extra hours of work and edits, and then, of course, my most obvious fear, sitting behind a camera. And because of how bad I thought it would be, I didn't feel like if I sat behind the camera, I won't be able to look into the holes. So imagine now watching my video when it's time to edit and see that I'm looking away from the camera. I was like, nah. So, a few weeks later, the idea popped up in my head and I got good. What exactly is a podcast? And I saw there are these tiny audio conversations that you have that can be recorded and uploaded online. It's like audio. My face does not have to be on anything. I remain in the shadows and I talk. And I'm like, oh, Saluba, oh Jesus Christ, international audience. Saluba is native dialect for God. So I'm like, my God, you have finally saved me. And I said I was going to do a podcast in 2020. So 2020 and 2021 was where the idea of the podcast came. In that same 2020, now I didn't know what the name of the podcast would be until 2024. So by 2024, the idea of me being called Talking Joe was already becoming very popular. In fact, now it's so popular that a lot of people don't know my name. They just automatically know that Joe will be from Joseph. So it's called Talking Joe. I'm referred to as Talking Joe in church. Not at work though. Except if, of course, my branded merch that has Talking Joe written on it. It's the only reason why people know that that's such a thing. And then my friends at work. Talking Joe has become a thing. So the idea to call the podcast Talking Joe was with a conversation I had with my friend Ione. So while preparing for the whole podcast and while we were not deciding when would this podcast finally be out, one evening I was talking to him and I was coming back from church. I remember sending her a message in the afternoon and said, should we title this podcast thing? Like, give me creative name. I was thinking of all of these funky names. Conversations, blah 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 blah, or chat with Joe, all of these things. And he said, my name is Talking Joe. Why not just call the podcast Talking Joe Podcast? And I'm like, does that sound? It's not giving. It does not sound crisp. There's no weight you get. So there's no heavy thing about it. And you're not like, why are you trying to sound so complex? Just call it what it is. It's a Talking Joe podcast. It's a podcast you are Talking Joe. Call it what it is. And she was like, after her, talking is an action. Basically, one of the podcast, his name is Joe. I'm talking with Talking Joe. So I was like, that's all. She said yes. After spending the night and probably the next day thinking about it and not coming up with anything, the only idea I came up with that was close by, I can't even remember what the idea was because I didn't take down a note. That was close by. I finally gave in. Called it Talking Joe. But the story behind the name Talking Joe something I do not say often. So for today's special, I'm going to tell you how the conversation, how that name came up. In 2020, I was in a conversation at home. Interestingly, I can remember where I was. I was on my bed, locked down. I was talking to my friend. No filter. So no filter and I were having a conversation about people being stigmatized because of certain character traits that are quite prevalent in their lives. One of all of these intellectual conversations, we were just talking. And then I think I used myself as an example. And I said how I always felt so bad as a child hearing people say, oh, call my name. And I say, he's the talkative, he talks too much. It always used to make me feel sad. Because I'm like, I felt being a talkative was an insult. It still is to me. So it became a stigma. Whenever I'd heard it, I was tagged it in primary school. I heard it from family, friends. So no filter eventually told me. She said, the thing with humans is, and I'm paraphrasing, because this was a conversation from 4 years ago, said, humans like to label what they have, whether they understand it or not. She said, we can't describe what we don't, what we can't label. If we don't label it, we can't describe it. And then sometimes, it just makes it difficult that if you label something, you usually cannot explain all the sides to it. Like, you cannot tell what will be good about it or what won't be good about it if you label it. And so she said, and then sometimes the labels, because we are humans, now affect our emotions. And then sometimes imagine labeling as a problem what God actually gave you as a gift. And I can never forget that day on my bed, my mind popped open. God, this person had saved me for something that she didn't know she had saved me from. And I was like, Christ, oh my God. And she said, don't ever feel bad when people tag you as that. There's no such thing as a talkative. It's a gift. God gave it to you. You have the ability for you to use words to express yourself. How much you talk. And with putting a balance, she said, although there are people who talk and talk so much, but as long as you talk about what is essential, don't feel bad for it. And then we had that conversation, and I think a few moments later, while still talking, I was thinking of his name for something, and I was like, So I talk, and so, and then left it. A few days later, I went on my status, and I just popped on my head, the Talking Joe, and for the first time ever, I wrote it, and it clicked, and I started using it everywhere. Social media handles, passwords. Hi, now I've told you my password. Well, it's not exactly the password for anything, something important. I'd say it everywhere. I call myself. Then when I would write stuff, so ideas or thoughts, I'd put it on there, signing out Talking Joe, and everywhere. And so that name came, and then 2024 became the name of the podcast. And Talking Joe has become probably one of the best things I have done in the last 4 years, because God, I love the name so much. Not like as if it's a name personal, more like it's a. So the idea initially was I wanted it to be a brand. If I wanted to do some sort of media, whatever, house or something, be Talking Joe. But this is my form of media housing, media production, and so it's called the Talking Joe podcast. So we had that, and it clicked. Recorded the first episode, tagged it, I remember recording my first episode, sending to my sister to give me a review. And my sister gave me a review that made me cry. Because for the first time, I don't think she knows this, but she has never given me that type of review on anything before. When I asked for a review, she sweet talks it, but I told her I want this review as honest as possible. And God, she critiqued every single thing. Started off by saying all the nice things. When she started saying the things that went wrong in the episode, my mind popped up and I was like, God, how did I not see this? The tears in my eyes, I cleaned and I told her. I said, you know what? Can't do this again. My sister said no. I said I want to take it, and she said no. Leave it. Let it be the reference that your first episode was this bad, so that you know what you are doing on from here. And so for that episode forward, every time I would run to record, I would ensure that those things she said never happened. I remember telling my friend Victory, so I'm calling on my friends who have helped me on this journey. I remember telling my friend Victory about it, and Victory listened. I was like, well, we're off to a good start. The episode is finally out. I remember debating with her one time when I said, I didn't want to upload it because I had issues selecting background music. I remember when Spotify, so along this journey, a lot has happened. Spotify has taken out of their editing ability, took off the ability to add caption. Like, they messed up with our favorite app so much, so editing became work. I remember stopping when I wanted to stop because it stopped. And people would tell me, we're here to hear you. We're not here to hear music. If we want music, we can always go to music platforms. And I'd continue until I was able to sort that problem. I remember she always reminding me, Joe, when is the next episode coming out? In my head, I'm like, my dear, I'm doing my best. And she's like, I understand. But this is such a big deal for her. And I'm calling my friends' names today because it takes a community, or it takes a village, like it's properly stated, to raise a child. This is my 1-year-old child. And for the last 1 year, got the best hands helping me. Oh, I remember Sarah always, when I mentioned the idea of a podcast with Sarah, and that's wild emoji of shock. Wow. And then listening and giving me the best reviews week in, week out. I remember Mercy. I remember my family members and my cousins. And then I am finding out now that Victory now and Victory Past, 2 different victories. I'm finding out now that people listen to this podcast, because a lot of people are in my DMs these days and they're saying, oh, I like this episode. This episode was so honest. I'm like, wait, come on, stop. What do you mean by you like the episode? You listen to me. Like, you listen to me speak. And they're like, yes. I'm like, it's not shocking to you because you are not me. It's shocking to me because I remember my first episode and how I always state that I'm not here for the metrics. But sometimes, like my friend Wisdom told me last week, Wisdom said, you may sometimes say that you're not here for the metrics, but it helps to see that there are numbers that show that you are actually doing this, that people are listening to you. So sometimes it's the numbers that help you on the days where you can't keep going. Some days where it's not there, it's the numbers that you check and you're like, people are listening. And so, from the depth and bottom of my heart, to everyone, both named and unnamed, because there are some who are not to be named, come on. I am grateful. The little boy you helped is here to say thank you. My little papa, come on. Thank you for the last 1 year. For helping me birth something I didn't know would mean so much to me. I can't tell you how much podcasting helps me. I can't tell you how much the day I finally wrote on my bio, Instagram and Twitter bio, believer, teacher, podcaster, That was such a surreal moment. Or I can't tell you what it did to me when I finally posted the RSS feed of the podcast on my bio. I'm like, my Christ. I can't tell you what it is to me having a YouTube playlist where these episodes are uploaded just as a backup store. My friend, the one, I don't know if you will like it anymore. My friend Faith, who always asks me, alright, is a new episode out, can I go and listen? And I'm like, please, you people have my heart. Because there are days when I've woken up and I decided I wanted to tear this down completely and go into oblivion like it never happened. But just knowing that I have some of the best support systems in the world is another reason for another episode. And so for today, thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for seeing me and saying that this can be possible, even when I do not know how to do it. Thank you. This is the first year. And for all the other years, and for as long as we will do this, just to doing it better. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. So, should I say happy birthday to Kijo Podcast? Happy birthday, 1 year birthday to the podcast. Thank you. Alright, this is our episode for today. It's like come your way on the next one. It's Joe.